Notes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Notes My Goats podcast. I am Brandon.
And I'm Steve.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Dude, at time of podcast release, I am finally warm
Yeah, I think
because
you're
I'm in
you're.
Florida.
I was like, you're in Florida at the time of release, right?
At the time of release, I'm in Florida. Yes. At the
And I
time of
am coming off of a trip to Arizona.
yeah, you're like a week. You're like
So
a week back.
yeah,
You're like a week back, and I'm out. I left yesterday.
yep, yep.
Well, today's yesterday.
Today's
Yeah.
the 4th. Yep. So
Actually, no, I would have left today. So at the time of recording, I am on my way. So
okay,
I might be in like Tennessee or Georgia by now.
there you go. Oh yeah,
Whenever you
because you
guys are listening to this, but whatever.
right. Yeah,
Spring break.
if you're a faithful listener and are listening to this on April 4th, you know, good to you. So
Yep. Hey, where to go, guys? I mean, you're in the morning of April 4th, even better. But if not, whatever. I mean, I'll be in Florida by the end of the day today,
there you go.
and then by Brandon's in back from Arizona. Hopefully, you're not like beat fucking red and sunburned all hell, but you probably will be.
I mean, I'm bringing sunscreen, so we're
SPF
hoping for
1000.
the best. Yeah, we we at time of recording we haven't left yet, but we're planning on going to a spring training game over there, so that'll be
Oh,
fun. So
you're gonna cook. You better get some
yeah,
like SPF 100. Go to CVS.
bringing a hat and all sort of stuff. So
I love it. No, that's fun, man. I'm looking forward to being warm. I'm looking forward to spring. Here in Michigan. As I
yeah,
mentioned before, it's one of my first, I think, well, actually I mentioned it in a couple weeks from now. It's one of my first springs in the last 7 years without coaching or having a kid in baseball this year.
yeah,
Weird.
weird, but probably a little bit relaxing.
I mean, yes, kind of, because me
One
and you
less
are starting
thing.
to add more stuff.
Yeah,
So like I'm relaxed in a different way, but it's just weird because I'm so like my body's like geared up and like usually pretty tense right now because we're getting ready to start practice. Things are starting to get rolling. Then it's gonna snow next week because it always does.
it always does.
Second week of April or so, we get like one last gasp of winter.
Yep,
Schools hang on to one more snow day because they're probably gonna need it.
yep.
Unfortunately, but and it's kind of one of those things where you just get ready for it. And this year's not happening, but I'm looking forward to some new adventures this year, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Speaking of adventures,
Yeah.
dude, the album we're talking about today, my wife and I had an adventure.
Hmm.
If you guys follow us on Facebook, back on I think March 11th, you would have saw maybe a live video from a show with the album with the artists we're doing today. We are talking about Newfound Glories and their new album, Newfound Glory, and the new album Make the Most of It,
Hmm.
which is an acoustic album.
Yep.
So my wife and I had the ability to go see them in Chicago on March 11th. Um, and it was phenomenal. I did a couple of live videos on my TikTok and a couple of them on our Facebook page. Due to being in the midst of Chicago, during St. Patrick's Day weekend of all freaking things, a week
Right.
early, um, the internet was kind of spotty, so I couldn't get a lot of the show, but I got a few songs, and it
There
was
you go.
pretty. I think I got a few of our fans saw it at least. I know I got a couple of messages.
Yeah.
Those videos are still saved, guys. So they saved for about 30 days. So you can go to our page on Facebook and you can find them there.
There you
They do
go.
save our lives for like 30 days before they kick them off. So check
Okay.
them out. I think it's a good one to check out there. But so Newfound Glory, Brandon, I know you're familiar-ish
Yes. Oh yeah.
because this is heyday of
Yep.
like high school, middle
Yep.
school, maybe middle school for you and high school,
Yeah, middle school, high school, yeah.
late 90s, early 2000s, and then
Yeah.
on forward. And then you kind of got more into the darker emo
The
after
darker
this.
emo, yeah.
So we've talked
Mm.
about these guys in the show a few times, I guess. So
Hmm.
I'll get into the backstory on them. American punk rock group from Coral Springs, Florida, active since 1997. Whew.
That's a long time.
They're the old guys of pop punk. The band members are still the current band members from '97. Jordan Pudnick is on vocals. Ian Grushka is bass guitar, usually sans shirt. Chad Gilbert is guitar and backing vocals, and Cyrus Baluki is on drums. Not only drums, dude plays piano. He plays acoustic guitar. He plays electric guitar, and he does some like crazy other percussional work. He's kind of a jack of all trades.
Yep.
He's an amazing dude. They have 10 studio albums, one live album, 34 singles. And if you guys aren't familiar with these albums and you're fans of New Found Glory, where the hell are you? They have four cover albums, including three of them that are from screen to stereo albums. And what they did in those is they took songs that are better known from movies,
Hmm.
thinking like the song from Twilight. I'm blanking on it right
Like
now.
1,000 years.
That one. Yup, that
Yep.
one. They've done cups from Pitch Perfect.
Hmm.
They've done all kinds of movies from the 80s on to recent ones now, but very popular movie songs, and they've turned them into pop punk songs. Kind of like drawing a blank. What's the Sausage Factory band?
Punk Rock Factory.
Punk Rock Factory, yes. It's kind of like Punk Rock Factory, but it's not their everyday thing where it is Punk Rock
Right.
Factory's everyday thing.
Right.
They've done just some fun ones
It's
to
funny
keep
how you
things
said
rolling here.
Sausage Factory, and I knew
Like,
exactly what you were talking
that's what
about.
they call their studio.
Yeah.
That's what I remembered them as, a sausage factory. That kind of works
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
Um, Now they are labeled as the godfathers of pop punk, with Blink-182 giving the bands the blueprint of music for much of the 2000s decade. These
Hmm.
guys are crazy influences for every pop punk band from like the late 90s all the way till now.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, anybody that does pop punk now will list New Found Glory as a contributor to their sound, some
And
way,
if
shape,
they
or form.
and if they don't, they're lying.
100%. 100%. Um, Now, as a part of other pop punk bands, they were one of the first ones really to mix that pop punk and the hardcore theme together.
Hmm.
Um, where Blink was just kind of straight pop punk. Like if you
Right.
think pop punk,
Hmm.
that's Blink 182. If you kind of
Sure.
think more the edgier pop punk, you might think Green Day. Um,
Yeah.
Hardcore, you're looking more the screaming, the yelling, um, a little bit more of like Taking Back Sunday and things like that. And
Yep.
that's where these guys kind of were like, we're gonna do both. Figure out what
Yeah.
happens. It's
Yep.
that whole it's that whole meme you see. Both? Yeah, both is good. That's what we're gonna
Both
do.
is
Both.
good. Yeah.
Both is good. Um, so the band was originally signed to Eulogy Records and released Nothing Gold Can Stay, while providing support for MXPX and selling their record with a one-page insert. It was noticed by an exec from Drive Through Records. So if you guys know what that meant, is they had their record through Eulogy Records. It's a very, very, very small record label. They got basically the CD pressed, and they had one piece of paper in there, like those old school thin jewel cases. That's all you
Yep. Oh
got,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and they were selling those basically at shows out of their cars, however they could sell them. While doing support for another pop punk, like the great grandfathers of pop punk, MXPX, um, somebody from Drive Through Records was kind of figured it out, and they
Hmm.
bought the band's rights from Eulogy and re-released that album. When they re-released Nothing Gold Can Stay, it sold over 300,000 copies.
Incredible.
So their peak success was from 2002 to 2004 when they released the two of their best known albums, Sticks and
Yeah.
Stones and Catalyst.
Yep.
Both went on to chart very well, propelled them to headline Warp Tour for a couple of years, and a
Hmm.
co-headline tour with Green Day during that 2.5 3 year span.
Yep.
Um, in December of 21, a couple more quick things here. The band released December's Here, a 10-song Christmas album. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Um, of original Christmas songs.
Oh, I know how I feel about original Christmas music.
That's how I feel too. We'll have to listen to it. It's kind of somber.
Okay.
Um, Soon after, though, it was announced that guitarist Chad Gilbert was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer.
Hmm.
This was just about a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
Um, in January of 2002, Gilbert had surgery and was cancer free after a 2 week stay in the hospital.
You're
He
talking
is still
2020. You're talking 20,
20
2022.
January of 2020 of 22, yes.
22.
So it was announced in December of 21 that he had the cancer. He um we'll get into some of the concepts of that because this album kind of goes right into that.
Hmm.
But after being in the hospital, having surgery and being in the hospital for over 2 weeks, they did get the cancer out of him. Um he is still feeling the effects of it and actually still does have some symptoms, and I think it may have come back.
Mhm.
But they're working on it and they're getting him better. He wasn't actually at the show. Um, the lead singer from 4 Years Strong, his name is
Okay.
Ryan. He played lead guitar and helped with some of the backing vocals. The crowd helped with most of them. But
Yeah.
it's this he's this big burly bearded dude, and all of a sudden, like, I looked at my wife and I go, Chad looks good, and that beard's awesome. And she goes, we're not. We were a little further back. She goes, that's not him. And Jordan was like,
Mhm.
we're like Ryan from 4 Years Strong. I was like, damn. He's like, y'all probably wouldn't know Chad got a beard. I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
Right.
damn. It's a nice beard too. Cancer was Prince is good to that guy. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
Right.
So let's go into our popularity contest for bands we do here on our podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with us and how we judge popularity, we did sales for a very long time, but
Hmm.
sales is are very hard for to figure out nowadays because it's
Yeah.
all basically streaming.
It is.
So how we do this is I asked Brandon to tell me how many listeners do you think an artist gets on Spotify?
Hmm.
So Brandon, for Newfound Glory, a great number didn't change either. That's kind of nice for me. I just checked it today. How many Spotify listeners do you think they pull monthly?
Oh man. Oh man. More than not a lot, but not a little. I'm gonna go 7.5 million.
Too much.
Ah, okay.
1.8.
Nah, okay.
Still
Yeah.
relevant.
Right.
Relevant, but you're right. Not a lot, not a little. They're right
Right.
in that sweet spot. Pop punk by itself is usually a subgenre, a smaller thing anyway, and you're gonna get the
Right.
nostalgia bump. But
Right.
I think I think
Yeah.
I think they got a little bit of that, but it's not as much as they used to be. I mean,
Sure.
we're all old now.
Well, we're all old, and it's been a while since an album has dropped. So,
And been decent.
right.
They have put out some interesting ones recently. Like before this that wasn't really
Sure.
good. And I think people are gun shy. This one's got
Yeah.
some fan favorites on it though that I think will pull people in eventually. It'll be a good one for them.
Yep.
Now, Make the Most of It was released January 20th, 2023. So just a couple months ago, guys.
Yep.
14 tracks, 57 minutes long, just under an hour. Doesn't matter. Could have been another hour. I'm down. It is their first ever acoustic album. It features 7 brand new tracks and 7 live versions of Newfound Glory classics. The original tracks all relate around the cancer diagnosis of Chad Gilbert. They all tie in some way, shape, or form to either the process, what happened, how individual band members felt, how Chad felt. Um, some of the songs, Mouth to Mouth, is about Gilbert's wife actually performing CPR on him when he lost consciousness. Get Me Home is about doctors getting Gilbert ready to join their band for their 20th anniversary tour of Sticks and Stones, and he did join them for most of the band dates. And Kiss the Floor is celebrating life in general, about being able to wake up every day and really be grateful. Um, there's a quote from Chad that I hid here because it just kind of felt what I needed to do. It says, even though the songs are sadder, they're still hopeful. Gilbert says, you hear so much online about mental health and fear and anxiety. I feel proud that we can release an album with joy and honesty in a way that will hopefully make people less fearful of life. A lot of times we punish ourselves for things that might have never been. I'm going through something that did happen, but doing it with hope and joy and a greater appreciation.
Hmm.
I, I hope I can get to a point where I can live my life like that. And I mean, unfortunately, it's a fantastic outlook at a shitty situation.
Yeah.
So we always tell people to think the positive. Chad Gilbert, positives today, man. He's got the positives.
Hmm.
Um, they had one single so far. Was Dream Born Again was the lead track. So that being said, I've talked for a while, Brandon.
Yep.
Let's get into our favorite tracks. What was your favorite track?
All of them.
Yes, it's so hard to pick.
It really was. But I ended up picking "Watch the Lilies Grow" as my favorite track.
Nice.
beautifully written and executed. It's a tragic story about being sick and leaving Earth and leaving behind loved ones. Um, the melody that he sang on this track really brings some emotion, actually a lot of emotions, and it it honestly made me tear up a little bit because like you're so used to a Newfound Glory sound,
Hmm.
but then when it's all stripped back and all you have is simplistic like music with a complex story, it allows you to like literally listen to it and just listen to those words. It's a
Hmm.
sad song but executed beautifully and perfectly. So for me, watch the lilies grow was my favorite track.
You know, I thought about you when I listened to that song too. It's about his kids,
Yeah, oh yeah.
and I was like, you're a dad of three youngies,
I think that's the reason why I like teared up so much.
and
It's
he's
because
he's got little kids too. So it's like, it's just his kids are not very old.
right.
So it's like, it's such a just rips your freaking heart out, but it's
Yeah.
so deep and it's still positive though. Like
Yeah.
it's still there's still some positivity to it while the person singing, the author of the song is incredibly sad, but I'm
Yeah.
still here to watch what's going on. It's a very good outlook on life. But yeah, I did any of these I could have picked for my favorite. I mean,
Yeah.
to tell you the truth, any of the first seven, any of the back seven. My favorite though, I went with the story so far.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and uh, listen, I there's hearing these tracks in an acoustic format live is amazing. I just saw them live a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
What you're hearing on this album is what I heard sitting 7 feet from the stage. The sound engineer who produced this album, picking up the crowd noise perfectly with Jordan and Chad, is so fucking powerful
Mm-hmm.
on these back seven live tracks because it's like you're sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
You have your headphones on, you're right there with them. This track for me is one of my favorite tracks of theirs non-acoustically, but now acoustically, I believe it lends itself to this format better than I would have ever imagined.
Mm-hmm.
The track reminds me of meeting my wife for the first time after coming out of a rocky, hard marriage and being afraid of serious dating again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our, mine and Tina's story so far has been bumpy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Um, I it, the song made me tear up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because anybody who knows me personally knows my recent story
Mm-hmm.
has been filled with craters. I ain't even gonna say bumps. Every other day, I'm digging myself out of an 8 foot hole instead of laying down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the last 2 years, year and a half of this,
Mm-hmm.
and having to remind myself this is just our story so far. This isn't the end. This is just the so far. And to talk to my wife about it and go, I just like, I love you. This is really fucking hard. I love you. And during this song, I was holding her and I was crying because it's just incredibly emotional packed ride we've been on the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we're both huge Newfound Glory fans, so we're just like, and she kind of felt it too. She's just like, this is it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was they they did when they did this one live. They did it with just a second here. I need to get the track list up so I can tell you. They did More Than Enough.
Mm.
And then The Story So Far. Like
Wow.
that was the back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And those two songs lend to each other so well.
Yeah.
And it was just I had immediate chills. I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it again.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
But The Story So Far was my favorite track, man.
I like it.
I loved it. So it is
Awesome.
time for our first game, Brandon.
It is. It is time for the newfound wing.
Let's go.
Let's play wine. Let's play wine. Word association and game. Word association.
All right, Steve. So we are
Oh,
back.
found it.
Oh, that's funny. I've got two for you, per
Okay.
usual.
I have the track list pulled up.
Are you ready?
I am.
Let's go. The moment I hit record.
My friend's over you.
Well, yes, but no.
Dress to Kill?
Maybe, but
Not
no.
usually. Is it hit or miss?
Ooh, that's a good one, but no, it's not.
All right, 1-1. One more.
Yep.
Moment you hit record.
The moment I hit record.
All downhill from here.
Absolutely, 100%.
I was gonna say failure's not flattering, but it's either
Well,
way.
Either could have gone either way, for sure. For sure. All right, next one.
Okay.
Don't touch the droopy daffodils.
Watch the lilies grow?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
It's the only flower one I can think of. I'm like, well,
I know, right?
Very flower reference. I like it.
Yeah, and I was trying to like do like the whole like so I did the droopy daffodils. Yeah. All right, Steve. So speaking of I don't know. Let's talk about those least favorite tracks. How about you start us off?
This is our show, right?
Yes.
I got a second favorite. Fuck the game.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't pick a least, man. I couldn't do it.
Okay.
I've listened to this album over 20 times. I will guarantee you over 20 times. Sometimes 3-4 times a day
Mm-hmm.
in the last month, I would say. And every single one was like nitpicky, and then I was just like, nope, can't even do it. Because the only one I could have possibly picked was Bloom.
Mm.
And it was so nitpicky. But I had to bring up Get Me Home.
Yeah.
Are you bringing up Get Me Home for your deep cut? No, you're not. I know your deep cut is. I had to bring up Get Me Home because I know what your deep cut is. You told me already.
Mm-hmm.
This track is incredible on so many levels. The lyrics are so deep and straight to the point. I love that some of the reasons to get home are so like just like creature comforts. A new couch has just arrived. You want to break it in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to miss a vacation and not wanting to upset your fans. These are trivial things, but it's so important to the singers and to the band. This is of the seven new tracks, Get Me Home is my favorite one of those because it's just
Yeah.
I have so many things in my life that are like so trivial to like everyone else. But it's like what I
Yeah.
look forward to. This podcast is one of them. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to go home so I can come and talk to you.
Oh.
Like I know,
Right.
but it's so
Yeah.
trivial to anyone else.
Right.
But to me, it's like that's what gets me through the day some days.
Right.
Like that's what is pushing me to go home and to make it home safely.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about being in that 8-foot deep hole and I can lay down and
Yeah. Absolutely.
These trivial little things are what gets me to come home and gets me to want to keep going. And it's
Hmm.
such a song is so simple, but at the same time you're like, yeah, I've got stuff like that. I'm like, I don't want to let those people down, so I'm gotta keep going.
Yeah.
So Get Me Home was my second favorite. I'm not doing a least. I can't.
Okay.
What was yours?
Um,
Was it
I
Get Me
picked
Home?
no, I picked Kiss the Floor
Okay.
as my least favorite. Now,
All right.
it's not it's not a bad track. I understand the premise of it, but there are a couple things that were very nitpicky on this
Mm-hmm.
track that just put it lower on my list of favorites, I think is how I'll say. I think the vocals were very breathy and forced. Now, this could be the fact of, you know, Chad being sick. I don't know.
It
But,
was Jordan that was singing it.
or Jordan, yes. But whoever, like, it seemed like the vocals were stressed a little bit. I don't know, just didn't like it. Um, it, they didn't have that full like newfound glory sound. It was more pulled back, but whatever. To me, it also is kind of a weird story. Like I understand the premise of the story, just it's just kind of a weird thing to me. And maybe it's the fact
Mm-hmm.
that I've got COVID brain and like, why would you kiss a floor? Just weird and whatever. But whatever. Kiss a floor like doorknobs, do whatever you want. But
Yep.
for me, that's just it for me. Kiss the floor. So
Okay. I mean, I see it. I think it's more of a to me it's more of a metaphor, just
well,
the
yeah,
happiness of being here. I mean, I can see literal thinking of that. Yes, I can see that. So I
it is definitely the meta. I
the
can,
metaphor of
like I
it,
said,
and
I understand the
I think the
premise,
breathy,
but
I think too, kind of the breathy singing of it, which he did it a little bit live, or like it was stressed. Like I'm not
yeah,
sure if it's breathy, but he just pushed a little further. Was like the just the angst of the whole deal. Like
okay, that could
there
be,
was because there was times when like they didn't know if he was gonna make it. So like
yeah,
this was being I think this song was one of the ones that he wrote while in the hospital.
mm,
Like he wrote with Jordan while he was in the hospital. So like I think it's more like
yeah,
when you we talk about artists all the time that go through crazy emotional stories and then they relive them. We're gonna talk about that actually in a couple days. Um what we talked about new with No Doubt and Gwen Stefani and Tony who dated and then broke up, and then she wrote a shit ton of songs bashing him. But then every night they got to go and play the songs because they're massive hits
right,
about him being a douchebag.
yeah,
So like you get into a spot of like this like pain and anger, and you got to relive that constantly. And I think this is seeing those lyrics might put Jordan back into that like that
hmm,
brain of like
yeah,
that trauma brain.
for sure.
It just now he's like so traumatized because there, and that's just real feeling coming out. And but
I
I
can
can
see that,
definitely see I can see the nitpicking on it as well because you had to find something. You took the show to its nth degree and you actually did it. I said fuck it, I'm not doing it.
right?
It's kind of it's my show. I can do whatever the
It's
fuck I
true,
want.
right?
My party and I will do what I want to. Speaking of what I'll do what I want to, right now, guys, we are going to play the newfound Shat,
Come up with something original, bro.
the
Call it the
glory hole
glory.
Shat,
I was gonna say the glory shat.
the glory. You know what? Take two. I like that, guys. Right now, we're going to take the most glorious of the Shats.
Okay.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen,
This is Shatner's Poetry Slam.
All right, Steve, we're back with the glory shat.
Yeah, glory Shat. I got two. If you guys aren't familiar, play Shatner's Poetry Slam. You heard the amazing theme song there by Jair Driesenga. He does all of our music. He is the Notes by Goats music producer. It's an honorary title. We don't pay him extra for that. We do pay him, but not extra for
Right.
his
Yeah,
title.
we don't. Yeah.
It's just it's a resume builder for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hit us up on LinkedIn.
No.
But so what we do here is today I am going to pick two songs from this album and I'm going to read the lyrics off in a very monotone William Shatner-esque way, giving slight inflection, basically reading them however I want to do it, but I'm not going to sing them. Brandon
Right.
has to guess which song I'm bringing up.
Yep.
Sometimes we do multiple, more than two. Most time we just do two for this game. But
Yep.
I got two today, dude. You ready to go?
I am ready.
All right. Let's see how good you're feeling today. The needle on my record player has been wearing thin. This record has been playing since the day you've been with him. No more long rides home. No more of your station. I didn't like it anyway. Remember the time we wrote our names up on the wall? Remember the time we realized Thriller was our favorite song? Have I waited too long? Have I found that someone? Have I waited too long to see you?
Bloom.
No.
Dang it.
Gonna keep going?
Yeah.
Maybe it's for the best. Maybe it's not for anything. It wouldn't be so bad to take this right from me. No more long rides home. No more of your station. I didn't like it anyway. Remember the time we wrote our names up on the wall?
Story so far?
Mm-mm.
All right, what is it?
Hit or miss.
Ah. Okay.
All right. Okay. Let's see. See if I can get you an easier one. Okay. Number 2. I lay on a cliff, the edge a foot away, and my body's tired. Might roll over the side. A sound from the distance. Your voice is fading in, and it keeps me breathing, keeps me believing. Never thought that a life could get so grim when the choice was sink or swim.
All
Song
down,
title.
all downhill from here.
Song
Mouth,
title.
mouth to mouth.
Yes. Mouth to mouth, you save me. Heart to heart, you change me.
Yep.
That's gonna be a wedding song, dude.
Oh, for sure.
That'll be a wedding song
100%.
at some point.
Absolutely.
Some crazy
Yep.
kiddos going for that one.
Right. So, Steve, let's continue with the topic of this entire album and talk
Yep.
about our deep cut tracks.
Yes.
What was yours?
More than enough.
Okay.
It was between that and Kiss the Floor.
Okay.
Both of these tracks hit me in the freaking heart hard. And it's just my walk of life recently.
Mm-hmm.
But More Than Enough is, it kind of tested me a little bit. Because I haven't been the easiest person to live with recently. I've been internalizing a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife has also been internalizing a lot of shit. And we've been battling back and forth. I mean, there's some times when we weren't on the same page and it didn't go well. We had to get back on the same page multiple times in the last couple of years, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at everything we've gone through, and Brandon, you know all of it.
Yeah.
When I tell anyone 10% of it, they're like, how are you doing this? And they only know this much.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask me how I'm doing it, but you kind of just know it's a wake up, plod along.
Yep.
Lunchbox mentality. You got to keep going.
Yep. A lot of
And
coffee.
you know how I am. So it's one of those things.
Yep.
But when I tell somebody who doesn't necessarily know me, and I
Sure.
give them just a touch of what we're dealing with on a daily basis, they ask why we haven't given up yet. And I kind of ask myself, my wife, like, why haven't we put thrown the towel in? Because you hear about marriages that talk about the D word.
Yeah.
I've been through one. It sucks. But we make it a point to not say that word in our even joke about it. We don't joke
Hmm.
about we might joke about like being apart or whatever. We don't bring up that word
Right.
because there's power in words.
Hmm.
You don't want to plant a seed.
Right.
And I I've these lyrics talk about putting someone through more than enough, and I love you more than enough and more than I thought, and it's just like even though we are knee deep in the bullshit, like I still want to be more for you and
Hmm.
you more for me.
Hmm.
It's kind of the my wife and I have this fun saying. We've been saying it for a very, very long time before kids, before even marriage. Is me and you against the world,
Yep.
and never been so apparent until recently.
Yeah.
We thought we had struggles when we were in our early 20s,
Sure.
and we had to figure out how to pay our bills. God, I wish I was back there.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
man, those were easy struggles compared to like life
Hmm.
and kids and stuff. Like
Right.
shit. Like I thought I had it hard when I was like 26. I'm like, fuck, to be 26 again.
Right.
Like looking at it from almost 39 now. I'm like, yeah, I was fucking stupid. But
Hmm.
you know, it's all relative. So mine
Right.
was more than enough. I love the song. I love the concept. I love the everything about it.
Yeah.
And then I really did like Kiss the Floor just because of that mentality of just like, yup, I wake up. It's during the week. It's 4 o'clock in the fucking morning, but
Hmm.
I woke up and that's the first win of the day for me.
Yeah.
And that's how I've
Absolutely.
been looking at life recently. Is the hey, eyes open. I'm tired, but I'm up. I'm moving. Let's
Yep.
go. So, what
Yep.
about you, man? What was your deep cut?
I picked a very popular track, an oldie but a goodie, if you will. I picked My Friends Over You. Um, this track just it's always a banger. It's always a newfound banger. However, this is an acoustic album. So they did this one acoustic. Pulled back, still just as great, still brought the same intensity that they did with the original in regards to tempo and all of that. Just so good that but yet at the same time, like you listen to a song, and I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, but I feel like so this song was played exactly as it was before. Just
Mhm.
one was normal and one is acoustic.
Mhm.
There seems to be kind of like because of how the music is made with this track, there's a different meaning to it. Like there's just a way to think in my mind, think about it just like a little bit differently. I don't know, it's hard to put into words, so just go listen to them both side by side, but like I feel like and maybe it's just the way when these tracks were done originally, like this track was done originally versus when it's done now, maybe that's why it sounds different in my head. But yeah,
It's perception too. Like
perception, right?
when you're in your teens, early 20s, and you hear this, and you're like, yeah, and
My friends over you,
now
and
you're
it's
mid
like,
30s,
yeah,
and you got kids, and you got a life, and you got a wife, and you're like, I like my friends, but no,
right,
no, no. I'm like, I ain't picking my friends over you. I'm sorry, like
right,
not long term. But
for sure,
so I will tell you, like, this is one of the ones I actually did. I did on our Facebook Live of them doing this song,
yeah,
and it's interesting to see them do it live because I've been to several Newfound shows, and they're crazy, jumping. Like these are shows I would not find myself in the crowd for. I try to find a table near the back because
Yeah.
I know people are going to jump and be nuts, and I'm not usually down for that bullshit.
Right.
I was pretty safe with an acoustic show, especially because I was right next to like a mom, a dad, and their like 14, 15-year-old son.
Sure.
And then like these other two gentlemen that were next to us that were definitely there together, but were just enjoying the music and themselves. And I felt safe. I was like, you know what? Neither people around me are going to be stupid. Now the people behind us were definitely going to be dumb, and they almost got throat punched. But
Great.
to see the band actually do these songs that you're so used to them jumping and being high energy, crazy, and to see them do them so restrained
Hmm.
brought a whole new meaning to all of them because you're just like, huh, man, we're getting old. Like
Yep.
this sounds amazing, and I could do this all day long. Like, but it's so interesting. When you told me you picked this song, I gave you a little bit of shit. I'm like, okay, but I see your thought in it. Like it's such a different feel, and it's a
Hmm.
different mindset now that you're older.
Right.
Like, yeah, no, not you don't feel the same way.
Right.
Like it's just a different feeling. But yeah, I totally get you, dude. That's not it's a good pick.
Yeah. Well, that's why I picked it.
I
So,
like it.
all right. All right, guys, let's Steve, let's start wrapping this one up a little bit and give our final thoughts and rating on this one.
Sounds good.
So acoustic album, it's great. I think this is just what a Newfound Glory fan needs right now. It gives us that NFG nostalgia with the seven, covers or not covers, but seven
Live tracks.
live tracks, but also giving us new stuff that is really good overall.
Hmm.
I talk a lot about musical diversity and taking risks on albums that we talk about. Sometimes with acoustic albums, you get a lot of tracks that sound generally the same. And I felt like this album did a good job of working in different tempos, intensities, etc., and really made this a fun listen. I highly recommend this. Um, if you are a punk rock fan, a Newfound Glory fan, and you didn't realize that they had a new album out, check this one out. Highly recommend it. For me, 9 out of 10.
Awesome.
Yep.
So, as mentioned before, for me, I'm these guys are the grandfathers of pop punk, and I believe they're still at the top of their game. If you were a fan back in the early 2000s when you were in middle school or high school or early college, um, you'll get the nostalgia feel from those back seven live tracks. Like hearing them live acoustic is just it's an interesting listen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, these guys still have the same energy of the 20-year-olds they had, and they love everything they do. They take more breaks now, which is kind of funny, but they like Ian will sit in a stool and like rest the old man knees a little bit, but they still do jump around. They still do their same thing. They still
Yeah.
have that passion and love for their fans that seeps out in every song and performance. You can hear it. You can hear it on those last live tracks that they did, and it's the same seeing them live. Like that's what you hear in this album is exactly what you will hear seeing them live. And I will tell you, the tickets aren't that expensive, guys. If you have a chance to go see them, whatever, go see them. They're
Yeah.
fun. It's a fun watch. Um, the first seven tracks of this album are a quote cancer album. Um, but they're so much more than that. It's a story about really a perceived loss and the incredible joy that can be felt when life lets you stick around for another day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, every month thus far, I don't know what the hell is with us, dude. Every month thus far, we've talked about a trauma album or a loss on an album,
Yep.
be it suicide, be it sickness, be it pretty much anything. And music is one of the big healers of most people. I would think it's a coping mechanism for me personally, but I think for a lot of people, music is just one of those things that helps you escape briefly and move on to try to make a better day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, these 7 songs, these first 7 are really about perspective. Life can be terrible, but it can get worse. And you can't take what's happening today for granted because you may not have tomorrow. It's about truly the album's title is make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do your damnedest because as we've mentioned multiple times this year, you're better off here than you are not here. Um, well, I'll mention it again. We'll mention it on Friday too. But 988 is a resource for you. If you're
Mm-hmm.
struggling, depression, suicide thoughts, call the number, text the number, get somebody to talk to. Figure
Mm-hmm.
that out. Um, if you're going through sickness of yourself or a family member or anything else, and that can be used for that as well. So if you have those feelings and you're going through some shit, like use the resources that are available to you.
Mm-hmm.
Keep fighting. Don't give up. Um,
Absolutely.
that's and if you're going through something like that, man, check out this album. It's not going to change your outlook on your day to day with your prognosis, but it might give you a new perspective.
Yeah,
It might change your
absolutely.
perspective on things. It's such a
Well, that's
wonderful
well, that's one thing
album.
about music too, is like it could be a therapy session because sometimes people create music that helps you process things you can't put into words, but yet somebody was able to and can speak that to you.
Like Marcus.
Exactly. So guys, I second that. Like, check this album out in general, but yeah, like if you're struggling with something with a sickness and illness, anything, and you just want, yeah, check it out. Check it out. That's all I can say.
I agree with Brandon. I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well.
Yeah.
I only gave it a 9 out of 10 because I wanted more. I said
Yeah, I could have.
at the top of this album it was almost an hour long, and I give artists a lot of shit for going over that hour mark. I would have
Right.
taken a couple more songs.
Right.
I would have
Well,
taken more of the originals and less of the and more of the newer tracks and less of the live ones. Even though I loved all of those too.
right. The I mean it's great too with this album that the live ones still relate. Like
They picked the right
they
songs.
picked the right songs. They just didn't, oh, we're gonna do My Friends Over You because it's super popular. We're not gonna do, they're all
They
placed.
fit the theme.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. And like I said,
Absolutely.
the engineer and the producer of this album, the guys that really put it together, they did a damn good job.
Absolutely.
It's a fantastic album
Yeah.
for it. So that's an 18 out of 20, guys. That is damn near perfect here for a 25-year-old pop punk band from
Yep.
Florida. Way to
Yep.
go, us.
Look at that.
Um, so if you haven't found us on any of the social medias yet, I don't know where you're looking because we're everywhere, even places we don't want to be. But you guys can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Notes McGoats Podcast.
Yep.
On TikTok at the Notes McGoats Pod. There you can also find at Brandon.Alberta and me, Steve, at Steve Madole. If you go to our TikTok, you'll see a link tree. If you go to our Facebook page, you'll see a link tree of all of our stuff. You
Mm-hmm.
can find us on YouTube now, guys. We are there.
YouTube.
Rocking. Listen to this podcast today, and you're like, I want to know why Steve was laughing. You can actually watch the video as to why I was laughing on YouTube. The full
Yep.
thing, full
Yeah.
podcast. I only
There you
edit.
go.
I do the video editing, and I'm lazy, so I don't edit a whole lot out.
There you go.
So that gives you a lot more insight onto some of the stupid shit that we do. Um, you can find us on Twitter in theory, but we are not there. And why is that, Brandon?
Fuck Elon Musk.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Fuck Elon Musk.
2 times best. I like it here. Also, by now, hopefully 45 has been arrested, and fuck that guy. But that going out there, we will see you next week. Actually, we'll see you on Friday. Come back because we are going nostalgia with a good friend of the podcast.
Yep.
Who I've been on her podcast a couple different times. She's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a deep conversation, but a fun conversation.
Yeah.
And we talk about another album that will make us all feel very, very, very old.
Yes. 100%.
Come back on Friday for some more fun with that. We will see you guys shortly.